My name is Father Michael Stalla. I am the spiritual director for Hope's Garden. Today, I'd like to talk about how to make it through the storm of very strong emotions by looking for those things that will bring you comfort. Now, there are some tricks that people do that are negative and damaging. You don't want to hurt yourself. In those moments in which we are filled with a great deal of anxiety and fear and troubles and stress, it's not uncommon for people to turn to alcohol, to yell at somebody else, take it out. You know, they say kick the dog kind of thing, or there are other things: eating too much, spending a whole bunch of money. You get into these vices, they call it. And a vice is really a bad habit that we have formed in order to bring us comfort. All right, but those are not very healthy, because in the process, you know, it makes things worse. You can imagine drinking doesn't take away the problems. It numbs the situation while the problem continues to grow, and often impedes our ability to respond to the problem. So it becomes even worse. It just grows. So what we want to do is find places that give us peace, consolation, gives us that calming down of the stresses and anxieties while being healthy and holy, something that's going to help us to get through the most difficult times while at the same time not perpetuating the problem. Here is a very simple thing that people do that is actually sometimes damaging. This is it. There is a problem going on, and I'm just going to shut everybody out. I'm just going to leave. There are times in which it makes sense. You get really angry with each other as a couple, and before I say something I shouldn't, I need to cool off, and I need to get out of that room for a second. Hey, I get that. I understand. Some people, they just keep walking. And when they come back, they never bring it up. They just leave it alone. They just let sleeping dogs lie. And you end up living in a level of fear, because you just never know when you're going to step on that toe again. And we're back at it. And then you're never really fixing it. So the idea isn't to escape. And they call that escapism. People could even use prayer as escapism. They constantly go into adoration to hide from the problems that are waiting for them at home, from the problems of their jobs, from the problems of their relationships. And we have to say, you know what? You need to recharge and bring Christ into the situation. But I understand when the anxieties get to a certain height, we become less functional. And like I said, you sometimes turn to vice. You yell at people. You do a lot of crying. You do a lot of things that ultimately aren't gonna really solve the situation. In prayer life, there are certain kinds of prayers that you might find. You have to do a little bit of testing, little kinds of prayers to find the place that brings you peace. Now, I'm going to go back to adoration as a positive. I could go to adoration, spend some time bringing my heart into the Lord, asking him to bring calm and peace into my heart. And then as I begin to calm, Lord, I want to present to you these problems and take them in what I call bite-sized pieces. When I look at it all at once, it's overwhelming. So I just want to ignore it all and walk away. You can't do that. Remember that song, Don't Worry, Be Happy? I remember there was some terrible advice in that. Can't pay the rent? Don't worry, be happy. No, that's the time to worry. You can't pay the rent. It's time to worry. So the worry can get so high that I'm not functional, where I start turning to vice. So I need to bring down my anxieties and stresses to a level in which I care about this issue, but not to a debilitating level. Okay, so that's the difference. I'm not escaping. I'm simply managing my stress. And as I pray, there are certain prayers. I had found that when I was a kid, the rosary was more like, drag me out of the fun things I was doing and do the rosary. Didn't like it as much. Now it was, I'm in the midst of a horrible, stressful situation, and the rosary was very comforting. But it wasn't escapism, because as I prayed, I also gave to the Lord these problems and started to say, Here, Lord. This is the imagery that I like to use. Imagine you're sitting in front of the Eucharist and there's a treasure chest, and you open up the treasure chest and you put into the treasure chest each and every stress you have and name them. Lord, I'm having a problem with this person in my life. Lord, my spouse. Lord, my job. Lord, my children. Lord, my health. You just name exactly what it is and you put it in the treasure chest. Now close the treasure chest. You already talked about that. Let's not spend the next hour of prayer on and on and on about how woe is me and my life is so miserable. Hey, you got it. You said it. It's done. Leave it in the treasure chest. It's time for your soul to rest. Spend some time in rest. You know, all day long you carry those stresses. Put them down for a little bit. Ain't the end of the world. Escapism would be to leave them in there. Don't do that. At the end of your prayer, I want you to open the treasure chest. But now, say to the Lord, out of all these things, I can't do them all. I can't do them all right away. What would you want to give me? What do you want me to put my energies into now? A bite-sized piece. Maybe God just puts on your heart, let's make an appointment with the doctor. Bite-sized piece. All right? Maybe God says, your spouse needs to make their own decision. That's not going to be your concern right now. Leave that be. Maybe it's time to think about a nursing home for mom. These energies that are required for the stresses of life have to be managed, and doing so in prayer and asking the Lord, take these, let me rest for a bit. As I regain some of my strength, give me back the part that I need to work on first. You don't always come back. So we're not totally escaping. We're minimizing how much that paralyzes us. And then we're asking in prayer, help me to handle that next tangible, right amount of things that I can handle, that my stresses don't go off the deep end. Are those other problems waiting for you? Probably. But I find that in prayer, God also reminds me, you're not in charge of everything. Some things you're just worried about. You're worried about, hurricanes and world wars and things that you have no control over. So the things he hands me actually can do something about, which is very liberating when I put down all the stuff I can't do anything about anyway. And the Lord's going to hand you something, but it'll be much more manageable. So I ask God to help you in your decisions to find that comfortable place, that kind of prayer that you use that calms it all down, but not to escape, but to now make it so I'm ready to take a bite-sized piece out of the problems that God would have me deal with.